Hello and welcome back to Aubrey Books and Coffee. Please grab your favorite beverage of choice and join me as we review all the books read in November. Now I have to warn you, I don't know if it's because I was coming off of October, which was incredibly exhausting, doing 31 books in 31 days, plus all those movies. So I feel like November, I just kind of needed to take a step back and relax a little bit. So this is actually my smallest reading month, if you can believe it. I actually only read a total of 21 books this month. I know, I'm taking it easy, I'm slacking, and I don't care. So without further ado, let's dive on in. First, some statistics, of course. Like I said, 21 books equaled 8,072 pages total. Divided by those 21 books means an average of 384 pages per book. And divided over 30 days in November means I averaged around 269 pages read per day. Again, not unhappy with this by any stretch. If I can just finish even one book a month, I'm usually pretty happy. But because I love audiobooks so much, as you'll see in a second, I do, of course, get through quite a bit more. My shortest book was A Prelude to Ashes. It was only 144 pages. My longest one was Jade Legacy. That one was over 700 pages. I ended up with 1 2-star, 10 3-stars, 7 4-stars, and 1 5-star, which if you do the math means there's still 2 missing. That's right, they were DNFs, unfortunately. But my average overall rating, even with those DNFs, was a 3.4, which I did several months with a 3.4. So it's really still a very solid reading month. I'm very happy with that. My main genre, of course, was fantasy. And like I said before, the main format was, of course, audiobook, because that's how I do. And I ended up doing a whole lot more borrowing, reading what I already had on my shelves that I needed to get through versus purchasing anything new. And Libby, bless you, was the one I used the most for my acquiring of the audiobooks. Love my local library. So those are the stats. Now let's go ahead and dive into the books themselves. First, I finished Girls of Fate and Fury. This is book 3 in that Girls of Paper and Fire series. I love Lee. I love Ren. I love the relationship. They've really been through the ringer. If you've read this series, you know they've been through the ringer during this trilogy, and I'm glad that it had a very satisfying ending for me. And I don't want to give anything away, of course, but I'm glad it wrapped up, and it wrapped up well. For me, it wasn't anything earth-shattering, which is why it gets that 3-star, but still, for me, a 3-star is still really, really good. Then I finished Bossy Pants by Tina Fey. This is, of course, a memoir by her. I gave it 3 stars. She's got really good sarcastic wit and humor. I really enjoyed that about her. What you see on screen is what you get in this memoir. A lot of times, though, during this book, she would kind of go off on tangents and would ramble a lot, kind of almost like a stream of consciousness. So that's why it got a 3 stars for me. It felt a lot of times like she was reading a journal or diary that she had, and literally with no filter. And again, that's why we love her, but I feel like it needed a little more cohesion at times. Then I finished The Ever Queen. This, of course, is the sequel to The Ever King. I adore this series. I went over in more detail in my vlog for a Polycon if you want to check that out. I gave it 4 stars. I highly recommend this duology for everyone. Then I finished Lady of Darkness, also for a Polycon, also in that vlog. I gave this 3 stars though. It was just way too big. It should have been broken up or about 100 or 200 pages shorter, and then I think it would have been a much higher rating. I just got lost in the weeds, and it really started feeling like the damsel was always in distress, and I got over that real quick. Then I finished House of Eve. This was the book club pick for my local library's book club, and it was once again... Ms. Johnson does amazing. But once again, she'll take your heart, rip it out, and shred it. So prepare yourself for that. I did give it 4 stars only because I will not be reading this again. And as you know, 5 stars is solely reserved for my shelves and ones I would reread. But I highly recommend this, you guys. It was heartbreaking, but also heartwarming. It's an incredible family story, a coming-of-age story dealing with the 1950s. and all the things that happened back then. And it just, though, it was just so good. Chef's kiss. Then I finished Jade War. This, of course, is book 2 in that Greenbone saga. I didn't like it as much as Jade City. This is in that vlog that you guys are going to be getting pretty soon. That is my Broken Binding vlog. First time doing it, so please be kind when you watch that vlog. But essentially, I think it kind of fell into the curse of the second book for me. It was very political and it kind of drug on in places. And so for me, it got kind of in the weeds and boring at times. So that's why it got the 3-star, whereas Jade City got 4, almost 5 stars. Then I finished Bloodguard, and I wanted to love this one so much because, oh my gosh, that cover, it is gorgeous. Another Red Tower book. They promised us good stuff. And it wasn't horrible. I gave it 3 stars. The fight scenes with the gladiator was incredible, but the romance, it wasn't there for me. I never felt it between the two of them. I never felt like it was real. A lot of times the politics they were laying out initially would be really good. And then when it came time for more detail to build on this world and build on those politics, kind of fell flat for me. So unfortunately, I ended with a 3-star because it all felt very surface level. But if you don't mind going into a book knowing you're not going to get super attached to characters, it's just very surface level, and you just want a good gladiator fight stuff, this would be the pretty book for you for sure. Then I finished The Language of Birds. This was a NetGalley. I gave it 3 stars. It's a teen, so it reads very young because it's meant to. I have to say the main character is an absolute genius. There were a bunch of puzzles and a mystery going on, and mom gets taken, and daughter's got to try to find her, and puzzles left by her deceased father, and just all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So it kind of gave some vibes of the Da Vinci Code, where there were puzzles and mysteries to solve and maybe a secret society going on. And that part was really cool. But of course, it's extremely angsty. And you really have to suspend disbelief in a lot of places. There's a lot of times things happen that you're going, that would never happen in real life. But maybe we're just supposed to believe it because it's from a teen's perspective. I don't know, but that's why I got the 3-star for me. But it was still an enjoyable read, and I thank you, NetGalley, for giving me that advanced copy. Then I finished Can't Spell Treason Without T. This was my personal book club's pick. You guys picked wonderful once again. 3 stars for this one because if I was comparing it to Legends and Lattes, I think that one was done a little bit better. Just being honest. I was not miserable at all. It still gives you the cozy vibes. It's still really cute. There's interesting magic involved. There's a relationship you're wanting to work out. There's an evil queen that's out to just destroy them. So many good things. And of course, a actual, coffee shop and, books and things like that, which is everything we want in a cozy time for a cozy book. And I'm definitely going to pick up the next in the series because this is just the first one, I believe, in a whole series that are going to come out. But it just wasn't hitting quite as well as Legends and Lattes did for me. So that's why just the 3-star. Then I finished The Woman in Cabin 10. I hate to say this. Ruth Ware apparently is very hit or miss for me. This got a 2-star. I was so disappointed in this one. After so many people were talking about how great it was, I was bored. The whole time I was bored. It read to me almost like a Bridget Jones diary kind of entry. It was all by her perspective, and they start setting the stage, and then they drone on and on and on. And then something exciting happens, and then they drone on and on and on. And then you get a clue, and they drone on and on. I'm serious. The amount of lack of action that was in this just made it so boring and repetitive to me. And I hate to say that, but it just was. And it fell flat for me. And it's making me rethink maybe Ruth Ware's not my bread and butter, despite the fact that I loved 0 Days. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Do you have a Ruth Ware recommendation that you think I would absolutely adore if I liked 0 Days? Let me know below. Then I finished Jade Legacy. And of course, this one I gave 4 stars. They wrapped it up beautifully. There were tears involved. Again, all part of the vlog. But It was done very, very well. I'm glad I stuck it out because that second book really made me question whether or not I was going to do it. But then I wanted to do that, broken binding vlog since we got those gorgeous editions. So I forced myself, and I'm glad I did because it was amazing. Again, very politic heavy, a lot of details, some stuff in there I didn't think was exactly necessary. It was more fluff, but overall had a fantastic time and would 100% recommend this series. Then I finished Heartbreak as a National Anthem. This is a Taylor Swift book. This was a Goodreads win. Thank you, Goodreads. I appreciate this copy. This is a journalist who's written several articles and I think has published other books. This was my first time. I think I'm just not into this writer's style of writing is what happened here. I gave it 3 stars, but the pacing just felt really off. It almost felt to me like it was just a personal love letter to Taylor Swift because this author has met Taylor Swift multiple times, been in the backstage of multiple concerts. I don't mind me, a love letter to Taylor. I love that music, but I wanted something that gave me more facts about Taylor's life or stories behind the songs, not just inner thoughts and monologues of somebody who's been there backstage and who has interviewed Taylor Swift, if that makes any sense. So for me, it was kind of a letdown, to be honest. Then I read A Prelude to Ashes. Thiago Abdullah is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I'm probably totally butchering his name. I'm so sorry. This is the little prequel novella that happens in the whole series of A Touch of Light. Gave it 4 stars. I thought it was fantastic. I think it would have scored higher if it had, more of our main characters that we have in A Touch of Light, but it's like 100 years before then, so you're not going to. Duh. But still, it's one of those, when I get attached to a series, I'm attached to those characters. So characters that come before them, okay. So kind of like Jennifer Armentrout, the whole prequel series that's going on before From Blood and Ash. I could take or leave. I want my main characters, right? So that's why I only got the 4-star, but still very well written. Love his writing style. Then I finished The Teacher. This was part of that Goodreads vlog. I am surprised because Frida McFadden has not scored well with me in the past, but this one, 4 stars. Absolutely loved it. Thought it was fantastic. It's about some very hard stuff, so make sure you look for trigger warnings, especially when it deals with teacher-student relationships and things along that line, so an assault and stuff like that. So just make sure that you are aware of trigger warnings. But it was very well written. I was on the edge of my seat. I didn't see the ending coming. And yeah, it starts off with a bang. You're not bored at any point in this, and it's told from different POVs. The husband and wife teachers, as well as the student that has been rumored to have had an affair with a teacher. So it's very interesting getting all these, points of view and kind of seeing things unfold, and then how the ending happened. I thought was just fantastic. I was cheering. I was laughing. Oh my gosh. So I do highly recommend this one. Then I finished The Book Lover's Library. Again, part of that Goodreads vlog. I'm so glad I chose to do this vlog because I am not a historical fiction girly. I'm sorry, I'm not. I get so bored so quickly. But not in this case. In this case, I gave this 4 stars. And again, only because I don't plan on ever rereading it. Otherwise, it would have gotten a 5 stars for me. So I loved the whole time frame of World War II and a mother who's single, widowed, trying to take care of her daughter and raise her. And her family had owned a bookshop that burned down. And so now she's just trying to find a job to support her little girl. But in the time frame back then, if you were widowed or married, you weren't allowed to work. So she was having a hard time finding a job. It's just all the things. And then when she finally finds this job, she finds a sisterhood there and people supporting her. And it's great. And then heartbreaking because also during that time, you were supposed to load your children onto buses or onto ships to send them away so that they didn't get hurt because of the war and the potential, bombings and raids that were happening. But then bad things were happening to kids on the way. So it's very heartbreaking, but it is a fantastic story. I highly recommend you pick this one up. Then I finished Quicksilver, again, part of the ApollyCon vlog that hasn't come out yet, but it is a part of the Goodreads vlog. So sometimes I double dip. I'm not going to lie. I'm not good enough to not do that. But I loved this. This was such a surprise. Such a surprise. If it wasn't for ApollyCon and the Goodreads vlog, I would not have picked this one up, or at least not for a while, because it's pretty thick, you guys. But I gave it 5 stars. I'm 100% going to get I can't talk today. I'm going to get a gorgeous edition at a Polycon because Callie Hart will be there. So I am so excited about that. Maybe I'll get a signature as well. And of course, I'm going to be recording like crazy while I'm there so that I can share it with you guys when I get back. But oh my gosh, it was so good. You've got Faye, you've got magic, you've got a kick butt main character. I love that she didn't make stupid decisions. And I understand as an author, that's got to be so incredibly hard to write because if you don't have your main character making bad choices to put them in bad places, you've got to be very creative with how it's forced on her. But she chose not to have her main character be stupid and make the stupid decision of running upstairs when someone's chasing you. You know what I mean? And it was just so well done. Absolutely fell in love with these characters and can't wait to continue because this is the first book in what will be a series. And I highly, highly recommend it as well. Then I finished The Hero of Ages. This took forever. Brandon Sanderson knows how to make chunkers, man. But it is so, so good. This is book 3 in that Mistborn saga. Reading it with Kim's book club. Had such a good time. I put little spoiler tags up on her Discord channel with it. And we were all laughing because the people who hadn't read it yet were just like, we're dying. We've got FOMO. We need to know what what's being said in here. And Tina and I were just having a great time laughing about it, but it was worth it. Oh my gosh, so good. I'm not going to lie. There were tears. There were tears. So just prepare yourselves when you do this series. Don't get attached to everybody is all I'm saying. Then I finished Wisteria. This is book 3 in that Belladonna series. I gave it a 3-star and I feel like that's a very low 3-star. And here's why. We have Blythe and we have another character. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to spoil, book 2. Blythe, remember, is the cousin of our main character in the first book. But essentially, there's like an arranged marriage and it's almost like a marriage of convenience, enemies to lovers, reluctant allies kind of vibes. All my favorite tropes. So it shouldn't have gone wrong. And in the beginning, it didn't. In the beginning, it was great. The banter was bantering and the world creation was beautiful and everything was fantastic. And then you get to the ending and I don't know why the author chose to do the ending that she did, but it felt extremely flat for me. It was unnecessary for me. I would have been happy with just a little bow kind of thing. It just felt unnecessary. I don't know how else to say it because, again, I don't do spoilers on my channel. But I was extremely disappointed with the way that it ended that way. So I'm glad the series is wrapped up. I'm not mad that I read it. Just prepare yourselves for maybe not the most mind-blowing ending, I guess is how I want to say it. Then I finished Playground. This was another GoodReads win. Thank you, GoodReads. I always appreciate that. Feel very spoiled. Gorgeous cover on this book. Another author I'd never read from before, and to be honest, probably won't again. I gave it 3 stars because I really, honest and truly think it's a me problem. It's a me thing for why I didn't enjoy this book as much. It had some really great items in here of like aqua lungs and some really fun characters that are kind of snarky and one that's a genius and like chess master and stuff. And it had a lot of good stuff in here. However, for me, a lot of times it was, again, lost deep in the weeds. It was very repetitive. It was very slow. So it wasn't up my alley. And I'm a sucker for chapters. I know that sounds very shallow, but I need me some chapter breakdowns. That way I can read for a bit and stop for the night. There's no chapters in here. The chapters are separated by the text. So you have regular font and then you've got italics, and that's literally it. There's no headings. There's no, this is the viewpoint of this person. None of that. It's just sometimes you're reading regular text and sometimes you're reading italics and you don't know, was there a section break in between? Was there a chapter break in between? And I'm just not a fan of that. That's just not the style I like at all. Makes me feel like the book's just one big run-on sentence. I do not enjoy that style of reading at all. And again, the writing style just was not for me. But this is an author that's run like a Pulitzer Prize, won a Pulitzer Prize. I can't talk today. But so obviously it's a me thing. It's a me issue. So I wouldn't say I'm personally recommending it, but I've heard a lot of people absolutely adore this book. So if you're okay with that kind of stuff, definitely check this one out. That leaves us, if you've been keeping track, with the 2 DNFs left to talk about. The first one was Where Sleeping Girls Lie. This was part of the GoodReads vlog. I really wanted to finish this. I wanted to love this. That cover is amazing. This is the author of Ace of Spades, so many good things going for it. However, it was very boring and repetitive, and a couple of times I think contradictory to itself, to be honest. I just was not vibing with it. I wasn't being attached to any of the characters, and I was really bored and just kind of wanting it over with, so I had to sadly DNF. The other one was Anxious for Nothing. This is I wanted to work on something that had to do with anxiety because for some reason this year I've been very anxious. And so I thought this would be great to kind of work on some self stuff. And it was boring. It was very, very boring. There was a lot of scripture being thrown out, which I'm not mad at. I love me some Bible, but I wanted actual tools in the toolbox to work on anxiety when things come up. What can I do? Breathing techniques, something. And instead it was just scripture, 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 and then a whole lot of boring talk. So I know that probably sounds completely horrible, and I'm sorry for that, but that's what it was for me. And so I had to DNF it, and I was like, I'm out. Well, that is all of the books for the month of November. Like I said, shorter than normal. I hope you guys had a wonderful November. Let me know down below what your favorite book was, and if there's any that I reviewed that you might be into picking up yourself. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow with a new TBR game. Take care, everyone.